Here you go. Each country's diplomatic structure that allows them to use force against force hasn't changed fundamentally since the dawn of civilization on this planet, except for the viewpoint of whether or not the countries use force directly. So, considering the fact that major powers control their power, not to use force carelessly in the pretext of peace, even if it is superficial pretense, the world has been making progress to some extent, I think. So it is obvious that we can say that world condition is peacefully stable, even though there are so many conflicts and war rampant around the world, compared to the period of time that war was a kind of like diplomatic method for countries like World War One and World War Two. So, but world stability is undoubtedly maintained by equilibrium of powers in the world. So, diplomatic and political negotiation among countries is premised on countries' power, and security treaty between two countries is made on the premise of major powers to protect dependent countries from threats of countries with different ideology. So nuclear bomb is ironically a symbol of power that maintains equilibrium of countries and world stability in a sense that major powers contain each other as a last-ditch measure with an implication that if I get screwed, I will screw you back. So in that sense, the reason that permanent members of Security Council of the United Nations are consist of major nuclear power is not that they decide something for peace, but they make an agreement, an arrangement regarding nuclear bombs over equilibrium of powers in the world essentially. So apparently peace defined by the United Nations is world stability protected by equilibrium of nuclear powers. So the meaning of the existence of the United Nations is like a regulator valve to adjust the power balance of major powers to maintain equilibrium of powers in the world in contrast to superficial humanitarian activities. So, as long as world stability defined as peace in a modern society is controlled by power, I think that United Nations can't even play a role in nothing more than spokesman in addition to adjusting power balance of major countries. So in the first place, the United Nations supported by the major powers and having no choice but to obey the intention of major powers even have no way to arbitrate a military confrontation related by one of the major powers supporting the United Nations. It is obvious. So by that logic, realizing the world peace that every nation hopes for, the United Nations needs to have more power, have overwhelming power that is second to none in the world, which means United Nations also has to have more nuclear power than any other countries in the world. So eventually, so we can get out of the circle of power game endlessly to win a peace in this world. So, but if one organization has too much power enough to influence other countries, there is a deep concern that the element of dictatorship will show up in an organization, even that is the United Nations. So in that sense, we don't have a peace in this world. The concept that we believe is peace is just world ephemeral stability that is quite limited.